Hi, and welcome to my channel, My Tax Guy, where we discuss tax matters that affect you every day, and hopefully we can take some of the stress out of the filing season for you. Without further ado, I want to jump right into my topic. But before I do that, guys, thank you for all the wonderful help with my channel growing. I have new subscribers, having new questions, and all those things. But please like, share, and subscribe. I really want to grow the channel. We're coming close to the end of the year, and I really want to hit 1,000 subscribers. I want to thank everyone that has already subscribed to the channel, and hopefully we can all grow together, and this can really be a thing to push us forward. So again, I want to thank everyone, and I want you to keep sharing the videos. Recommend them to your friends, anybody that's kind of confused about taxes, or if you just want to get a basic understanding. Now, without further ado, once again, I'm jumping into my topic. Now, everything that has just happened with Hurricane Ian with Florida and the Carolinas, our prayers to the families and residents who are affected by this disaster. I want to discuss the right way to do your withdrawals from your retirement accounts and how it affects your taxes. Because a lot of the time when people do these things, the first mistake they always make is they try to do the withdrawal by themselves, and you really don't have to. Now, your retirement accounts are your IRAs, your 401ks, your pension funds, if you have access to them, things like that. I know in New York they have something called NICERS. A lot of the city employees participate in it, whether they want to or not. That's what the union does for you, which is awesome. But more importantly than that, not getting your 1099 coded correctly is the biggest mistake you can make. Again, when it comes down to your tax time, it is too late for your preparer to help you make any adjustments to that. And honestly, once you get the form, it's also relatively too late for you as well. So you want to make sure that you take the time, if you're going to take the relief, that you get the right assistance, making sure your 1099s for your distributions are coded for disaster. Now, one of the things you need to also keep in mind is that you don't have a large window to start making those withdrawals. Usually they want to see that happen relatively quickly. And by that, I mean either the day of or like the next day. You know, with everything that's happening, usually the government, and they'll kind of give you a grace period. Heck, even the company, wherever your 401k and things like that are being managed, even they'll tell you, hey, we understand those sort of things. So don't make it like, oh my God, I have to do this today. My house just burned down, or my house just got hit with like a, category 4 hurricane, and now I have to figure out how I'm going to get to a phone to do this fast enough. So no. But you want to do it in a relative time frame that is as close to the day as possible. It is important that you understand that the closer you are to the date, the easier it is for this to go as smooth as possible. And by the date, I'm talking about the day of the actual disaster, when the hurricane actually hit. Another thing I want everyone to note is that residency matters. Now, when we were in the pandemic that just happened, the entire country, including its territories, was considered in a pandemic, which means that if you were taking out withdrawals from your retirement accounts, you should have been taking them out under disaster coding. Now, I know a lot of people have employers and they have maybe even veterans at the job who know how to properly do these things, but it's really important that if you're gonna make the withdrawal, that you really talk to the people who you're either going to be at the phone with, you're going to email. Even if you're looking at the form online and you don't see it, it means you need to call them in, or you need to send an email out to your retirement fund manager and be like, hey, I want to take out a qualified disaster relief withdrawal. How do I do that? And they will walk you through that entire process. The reason why you want to make sure that it's under qualified disaster relief is because a couple of things you do get as that's a benefit. You get more than a couple of months. You actually get a couple of years to actually put that money back into your retirement fund. So the government isn't going to you right away, hey, You took out this money and you immediately got to put it back in. No, especially with the COVID relief. The COVID relief gave people 3 years to actually take the money out and to pay it back in. You know, your employment, of course, notwithstanding, because employment will make those things different. And I'll probably go over that either today or maybe in another video, because when you leave a company, you take a loan out against your 401 and your pension and things like that. It's kind of different how they view that sort of payback. Now, once you know that you're going to be taking it and you've spoken to somebody, you're making sure that the coding is correct. You want to make sure that the disaster date that of the occurrence is also there. If it's not on your 1099 form, you should also ask for a letter from the management fund. Yes, they do provide letters that come with your 1099-R. Most people, I'm going to be honest, they'll ignore them, but you shouldn't. You should kind of hold on to them, especially when the matter is serious like this. You want to hold on to everything that you can record-wise so that it shows why you took out the money. Hey, I'm in a qualified disaster area and I need these funds. I got to take my family to hotels, or I have to go back in and buy more clothing, more shoes, food. You know, I have to take care of a sick relative and they have no funds of their own and they have their own home that they need to manage. I need to do, you know what I mean? So when you take those distributions out and you're a caretaker or you're a custodial parent or whatever your reason is for taking care of your family, you got to make sure that you're getting that stuff coded. Another thing to note is that with qualified disaster relief areas, they mean the qualified disaster relief area. One of the problems that always come up is what areas are actually affected. Typically, the governor of that state will say which area is which and which area is qualified and which area isn't. However, the president can also do that. So it's sort of like who kind of gets to it first. So that's one of the things you also have to keep in mind. But your qualified disaster area really has to be an area that's been designated by someone who's basically either running the state or the federal government. I'm sorry, there are no other options. Even mayors go to governors and say, hey, this is a disaster. I need you to declare it's a disaster area so people can get federal funding and federal assistance. Now, people may live in the state and think that they can just kind of like, hey, you know, this is Hurricane Sandy. I live in New York, but I live in Rochester. It really didn't affect me like that. But I'm just going to take this withdrawal anyway. Don't do it. Do not do it. Trust me, the government has a list of areas when they get designated. So, excuse me. It's not like one of those things where it's arbitrary and you are going to be pulling one over. No, they get a list. So they know what areas are going to be considered. So you can't be like, well, I live in a state and that's good enough. No, it's not good enough that you live in a state. You must be in an area that is actually affected by whatever disaster, whether it's an earthquake, a hurricane, tornado, volcanic eruption, whatever it is, the government has a list of it already. So stay away from things like that. I'm always big on warning people against, excuse me, against things where other people may tell them it's okay or who's going to notice. Like, don't make the bill for yourself. Trust me, it's just not worth it. Let's use the programs what they're meant for so that the right people always get in the right help. A lot of the times when there's a shift in certain policies, it's because that concern comes out and then now it's no advantage to anyone who actually needs it. So I always tell people, hey, if you don't need it, you don't live in that area, just stay away from it. The other reason why, of course, you want to make sure that your 1099 withdrawal is coded properly is so that you do not have to worry about paying the penalty on early withdrawal. That's right. Remember, if you're not 59 and a half and older, 9 times out of 10, your withdrawals are going to receive a 10% penalty on top of the 10% tax that has to be paid when you take out the withdrawal. You don't really have to deal with that with with the disaster payments, neither of those things really apply. So they're literally going to be like, hey, it's your money, really, take it out, do what you got to do, but remember, you got a couple of years to put that money back in. So it's there for you. Now, the difference between you taking out of your 1099-R and disaster relief is one that's very simple. Disaster relief is treated like any other grant. They're essentially giving you that money for you to do the things you need to do. There are some cases where it's considered a loan. Most small businesses in the areas that were affected by Hurricane Ian will need a small business loan. The damage is estimated between $40 to $75 billion. And those businesses that are affected are going to need every single venue of help that they can get. And because they need that, they'll be more than likely taking out more loans. I think there's also going to be something for homeowners. They haven't really outlined cleanly how they're going to work all of that stuff out, just because of the breadth of the damage and the magnitude of the amount of money that's going to take to get those areas affected, back into prominence and a lot of the residents back on their feet. But you want to make sure that you understand that when you take that withdrawal that money has to be basically put back. When you get the grant is coming from the government. It's basically treated as money that you just get from the government, and you don't really have to pay it back. So you don't have to really worry about. That's really the difference between the two of those things. It's really getting almost like a stimulus check during a disaster, as opposed to the other thing, which is more like a loan, where you're getting the money, but you're gonna have to start putting that money back in. Typically, though, your employer, when you do take out money, they're already gonna say, hey, we're taking it out for this amount of time. You're allowed to spread it out over this time. These are the minimum amount of payments. So all of that stuff is can be handled literally on that same day. Do not have to worry about thinking of how you're going to calculate all the stuff in your head. Remember, the best thing to do is to really talk to the people managing the fund, whatever company you have, whether it's Vanguard or if it's Charles Schwab, Transamerica, of course I said NYCERS, any of those things, you got to get in contact with those people. Make sure you get them on the phone. Make sure that your stuff gets qualified properly, and so that when you come to file your taxes, you're not trying to pay taxes back on money that's really you took out to help you take care of yourself and your family. That money basically is going to be given to you without any of those penalties or the taxes and things like that. Now, I want you to understand something. If you don't do those things I just described, you're basically taking an early withdrawal. Your early withdrawal is going to be treated like any other early withdrawal. You will have to pay the taxes and you will have to pay the penalty on it. It is also important that while you're, again, on the phone, when you receive your 1099 in the mail from your disaster relief, it usually comes with the letter, or it'll be coded at the bottom with the proper code and the dates and everything like that. So your tax preparer will automatically know what to do when you hand them the form and the letter, and everything goes smooth. And that's really what we want for everybody, as far as just making everything easy and more just, it's more easy. You just want it more easy so that you are taking care of the things you need to take care of and not worrying about some complicated tax issue over something that is basically a 5-minute process. Now, a little housekeeping before I go. I will be uploading another video later on. I have to really talk about this issue with the IRS losing people's information. I've been meaning to talk about that for a while. That is not something I personally am overly excited about. Getting my information basically released to the public. So it's something that stuck with me and something I'm really going to discuss with everybody. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming over to my channel. Remember, hit that like button, hit that share, hit that subscribe. I want to thank everybody for coming over, and I'll see you out there. You have a good one, guys. Thank you.